Cool.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Insights and Innovation series for this amazing Monday. We have got our wonderful partners at Weatherzone joining us today. Tom and Mark Woodridge are joining us. They will be running through interesting things around consumer behaviours, trends, and then also a couple of the exciting things that are on their roadmap, or shall I say forecast, for coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tom to kick things off, and thank you for partnering with you. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. And secondly, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Stunning. Perfect. Thanks very much for joining us. So I'm Tom at Weatherzone, one of the sales managers over there. And we're essentially coming to you today to just discuss context and all things, what contextual relevance is to advertisers, brands, and agencies. So as an intro, just entering, closing into FY24, we all kind of think about what our next strategy is going to be. What are we doing next? What are we bringing to the table? So we really want to bring why weather's the ultimate contextual environment to the forefront. And sorry, I'm just getting a bit of background there. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Continuing. So essentially, in market, you face whether your brand, you as a publisher are relevant for a brand, and we often, as a weather business, are contextually, related to heating and cooling, energy, certain insurances. So the way we really approach and market is to discuss how important weather is to all of us, how much it's in the background of everyday life, and how much it affects us and will continue to affect us. So we believe weather is relevant for all verticals. So to start with, everybody checks the weather, or everybody engages with the weather, whether it's small talk in the office, or whether you're discussing climate change and all the big events that are on the tip of our tongue. And essentially, weather's 24/7. It's kind of just an arm of news. I always say it's why TV networks still charge a lot for a weather segment for 10 seconds. So a little recap if you don't know who Weatherzone is. So we are two arms of our business. So we have our B2B side of the business, Weatherzone Business, and they do all of operational intelligence and using weather forecasts for business decisions. And then our consumer media side as well, which is us. So which is our digital offering across our app, desktop and mobile web. So to give you a little bit of history, just for those who don't know who Weatherzone are, we've been around for quite a while. I think sometimes people think we're new in market, and that's just because we've been a private business for the last almost 4 years now. So we were founded in 1998, believe it or not. So we've hit the 25-year mark, and we've kind of, gained our credentials from providing weather to all of the largest Australian networks, to moving into the aviation space and the mining space and the agricultural space. But Weatherzone's gone global, so we're owned by DTM, a US company, in data and analytics. But we have also been recognized by the World Meteorological Organization and won an award through them. And on the bottom there, you can just see some of the brands that we already work with. Essentially, we power Qantas for all of their flight data for the weather. We work with Ausgrid in terms of keeping their staff safe when they're going out to fix all of the power lines and things like that, as well as providing a lot of weather data to plenty of media agencies, media businesses across Australia. So back to the context. So weather's future-proofed ultimately. As I said before, it's a form of news. It's breaking news all of the time. So the biggest reason why we want to reinforce how important it is to decision making is it's really all about risk and reward. The undertone of weather is, one decision versus another. And essentially, it undertones and underpins, why weather's one of the most powerful tools. It can influence a decision immediately. And whether that's a small decision on something, whether it's making a decision on what you're going to eat that day, or is it a decision on whether you spend $20,000 to have a backup venue for your wedding. So I pan over to a line from the World Meteorological Organization where they kind of put it quite nicely, as you can see on the screen. So we need weather forecasts to know what to wear, to plan our day, to prepare for natural hazards that may lie ahead. And that affects literally everything we do, from transportation to freshwater, resources, sport, travel, adventure, and essentially everything we do. So our app, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's essentially a lot of granular data, but in a really digestible kind of format. That way, Australians kind of love talking about the weather. So there's something for everybody on there. So we have like accurate forecasts from your 1 day to 14 days to a calendar for an entire month. An interactive rain radar, so people know exactly what's happening with the wind and the rain and the cloud coverage. And that's just a little bit of an example of essentially what the app looks like. And just to touch on consumer media, so we are on desktop, mobile web, and the app, but you will hear us mostly talk about the app. So just touching on our audience, which is we have 6 million monthly active users, and they're using the app multiple times a day. So the first engagement is in the morning, and they're using it up to midnight as well. In terms of demos as well, we cover most age groups. We have a pretty small audience for underneath 18. So we're right in the sweet spot, really, of 18 to 64. So just rolling back to context, being that heating and cooling and energy businesses and insurance has been a contextual buy, really through Weatherzone's offering. I just wanted to display a couple of the brands we're now kind of working with. So you can see on screen that we kind of have broadened our scope a little bit. And we work with a number of businesses, from QSRs to alcohol to the streaming apps. So that's just a little bit of an example of the market's really starting to see the benefit in advertising with the weather. And that essentially just comes back to all of those points of weather's future-proofed. It affects everybody. But the thing I love the most about it is engagement is intentional. People really come to view weather because they need it, and they are not going to get distracted by a video or on YouTube. So who is a weather company's audience? So this is really something I like to talk about a lot in market, because we always say, everyone checks the weather, so we have a piece of audience. So one exciting part for us is how we are able to understand more about that. So as a bit of a broad perspective, everyone checks the weather. So we have a bit of every brand's audience. And it's all about, how we're able to reach them. So as you can see on screen, we have the people that are just everyday people. We have people relying on Weatherzone for whether they're going to work that day, and people that are frequently traveling, and people that are just all about the weather data from a sustainable perspective and are interested in climate change and the effects. But how we're able to, one exciting new addition to our offering is our new campaign reporting dashboard that's about to release. So essentially, when a brand or an agency runs a campaign with us, we'll be able to understand post-campaign who really engaged with the creative in terms of their demographic, their age, their income, their household income, average monthly mortgages and rent status, and key for me is the brand affinities. So it'll be really important for us to be able to have a auto brand run a campaign, and we know that they happen to be a Woolies favoring shopper. So this will include data from census, from our proprietary data and our mobile app and location data as well. So one really important piece of why weather's important is no two seasons are the same at the moment. So to those, I'm in Sydney, so those who are also here know that this winter, or even just before, has been freezing. In the morning, in the night, we've got that bit of chill now. So last year, it was completely the opposite. We were all kind of wondering, where is the cold? And it's, we kind of didn't really have a winter. So this is to touch on brands that have a really contextually relevant campaign or client in general, those who might be a heating and cooling brand or who might be in that category of typically contextual. It's really important that they are dynamically considering the weather for their campaigns. We have a few brands that will book kind of routinely on as per a season, but it's really important to, understand that the weather is completely changing. It doesn't wait for anybody, and it will affect a brand's decision. It will affect a brand's results, based on that decision. So a couple of examples I've just put on the screen are some of the news articles. So where we have information on the winter's chill and the lowest temperatures in Queensland in 4 years, or Australia's second driest May on record. So these, you can imagine, are are a huge impact, really. If you're a brand that has an alcohol drink, but it's not raining, so everyone's out and about and they're not buying, whatever it may be. In terms of the app, you can look at extremes that are happening, which is where I've really noticed the biggest change from this season to last, especially in May. As we opened into June, we had the coldest temperatures in May for Melbourne for an entire week. So really, really important that we are dynamically running those campaigns. So touching on ways you can work with us as well. So the app's got multiple layers, and this really speaks to why weather is the audience of a weather business is so broad. So utilizing things like our rain radar on screen. So this has the ability to look at wind streams live, where the rain's coming in. You can look at it from a 12-hour perspective down to, I think, a 3-hour perspective. And essentially, this can inform your travel decisions, events, as I said, people that are workers reliant. But the point really is that so many people have a different purpose for why they would need this information. And it really speaks to small and large reasons again. So people who might be worried about what they look like and what their hair is going to do that day, and that's why they want to know what the wind is like. But then it could be for the people that who drive ships across the sea, making huge deliveries with millions of dollars worth of product, to understand what's going to happen, on the ocean. So it really covers the most broad spectrum of needs and consumer behavior. For example, that's, we have an array, as I said, on the app. So our marine and tides page, for example, covers tides, wave graph, wind forecast graph, and 3-day marine outlook. So it really, I often have this, people say, oh, I love your app because I'm going on a fishing trip, or I'm hosting a boat party, and things like that. So that's just, again, another example of how people can really interact with and understand really important, detailed, granular information. And it's just that we wanted to really bring this, back to the forefront, to be in consideration for how you buy media. Another exciting one that we haven't really done a lot of in market, but we really want to push to the forefront, is destination targeting, really. So people can look at any location they want on the app. So why not fire your campaign if it's a tourism campaign that's relevant for that location? So we'll be able to know that you're in Sydney, but you're looking at like Auckland on the screen, for example. And that can be where you as a tourism business promoting sales to New Zealand can fire your ad dynamically that way. So these are all, again, just layers and layers and layers of where people have many different reasons to interact with the Weatherzone app. So a key USP for us, those who have been presented our deck before will have seen this, but essentially Weatherzone, what's unique to Weatherzone is the morning. So it's unique because 80% of our users will start their day every day with opening our app. So that's almost 1 million people before lunchtime, which is a really powerful tool because it's before other media. We can't claim it 100%. However, it's before people have seen an out-of-home ad. It's before people have watched television or turned on a radio. So it's a really powerful way of reaching people with content that they have the intention to digest. So the creatives that are on the screen is our Eclipse creative, which is our high impact unit for the app, and probably the unit that we'll lead with in most proposals. You can see that the weather integrates into the base of the creative. So essentially you have intent. They're consuming both your creative and content that they want simultaneously. And checking the weather in the morning, it's a daily ritual. It's routine, and people are often in a planning state of mind as well. They're thinking about things that they need to remember, things they need to do, things they need to buy. And it's quite a different type of checking the weather or engaging with the weather than when you're on your lunch break quickly at work, before you're busy. So we see really great engagement and a lot of results first thing in the morning. But importantly, to note that our offering and our users don't just check in the morning. This is just the first engagement. So it is the most powerful. And you can really take advantage with our 24-hour takeovers. However, we have consistent audiences through to midnight. So the only lull for us really is midnight till 4 a.m. We still have thousands that do check. But yeah, it's essentially like remembering that people have different jobs, people, have night shift and whatnot. Things still happen when we're asleep. So just to touch on, the contextual types of campaigns that we do run in market now. So we have those heating and cooling brands there. So we're relied on for campaigns about, the moisture in the air. So our humidity data is used. Air quality data is used for all of the purifiers in market. Allergies, so pollen is a key piece of data for us. And then, of course, temperatures and, weather conditions, as you'd imagine. We also we see a lot of campaigns for energy businesses that's based around, converting or safety, as you can see there. And we're trusted by government for almost every state government for a variety of campaigns. So there's context and then there's awareness and reach. So as you can see here, these brands on screen, none of them have a direct link to the weather or a contextual tagline really. So, and these have all had, really strong reach and a lot of engagement for every type of campaign, and neither brand are the same. So you can essentially see that there's a link to, I guess, the reach play and the context play, but it's really about diving in, understanding how you can use our data to get to that really detailed level of who a user is. And then just the light taglines that we see here with the Ford example, it's a way that a brand that doesn't typically have, a hyper contextual relation, but it just really sums up a campaign nicely. Breeze past it all, clouds won't stop us, rain, hail, or shine. And finally, planning before purchase. So the message is the same throughout my presentation, essentially, that every type of person has a different reason of utilizing the weather. But some of the tools on our app that people use the most often are our daily forecasting conditions, the 14-day forecasts, but really popular are the calendars. So we have 28-day temperature calendars and rain calendars. And I find this particularly useful when speaking to brands about, a campaign that's going to be centered around, rain events. It can really give us an idea ahead of time whether, whether targeting is the right thing to do then. And most importantly, we like to tell everyone that we are completely brand safe, because we are. We're news, we're just an arm of news, but with nothing bad. So how am I going for time? Not too bad. So just a couple of insights that I wanted to touch on from our programmatic side of the business. So real estate, this is this category, basically we skew really well for throughout our open auction numbers. We have results as high as 38% above market rate averages for our click-throughs from some of the data this year. So this is also just to talk about who is an audience through a weather business. With our mobile app targeting as well, so we know what apps are on users' devices. So it's a way to target competitors and know in market whether we're aligning to the actual market standard for share of apps, share of voice. And out of sporting brands as well. Now this one I just wanted to quickly point out because I think there's a perception of whether audiences might be an older client. And some of our highest performing units throughout our programmatic result is brands like JD Sports, Puma, and Nike. But the list kind of goes on. And we'll be looking to come out in market a little bit more with a few more details about how your brand actually performs throughout our platforms and our pages naturally. And then we have our quarterly newsletter that's just about to come out. So just a light teaser really, and this will drop into your inboxes soon. But our quarterly newsletter will feature, top campaigns that have happened, top weather events that have happened, all things relevant to essentially Weatherzone's business and how it's going to affect upcoming campaigns, and yeah, great results and good wins along the way as well. And I also wanted to just pop in a little example. So we've just recently run a campaign for Lion Nathan for Guinness. And this is just to really talk about, how we strategize. And some of the success we're kind of having in market is campaigns that have, good ideas behind them and ways you can really utilize weather. So we know that with our location targeting, we have a really high amount of opted-in users because it's a natural value add of the app. So you can target via all of the normals, state, city, region, postcode, but we can set up proximity to any bespoke kind of location. So the interesting thing from our Lion campaign was, because there's so many pubs that are Guinness pubs, to influence users in a postcode geo to visit a pub right nearby. So it's a really nice interactive way of using their pub finder existing location map and our real-time data. And then these are really just examples of how we pull audience segments together. So this is, again, an alcohol-based audience segment, where we utilize apps from, alcohol delivery brands to your loyalty apps like BWS and Dan Murphy's, as well as real-time data from people that have been utilizing the store locations and how often they're visiting those as well. So it'll be interesting to look at this year versus some pandemic years as well. And then finally, one thing that is basically going to be exciting for us is converging our approach a little bit with Weatherzone Business and Weatherzone Consumer. So we are in a number of discussions at the moment. So realistically, just a teaser, but we already work with so many brands from a B2B perspective. And we're finding a gap in the market for where operational intelligence using weather forecasts can relate to a consumer media offering, where you can, from the business perspective, where historical data might be used to understand how weather's related to sales, or whether it's location data of a business's customers that we are providing a message for, whether it's about weather warnings to their home or their vehicle, how we can leverage that into also providing a key messaging of the business to those users that are also using our consumer everyday app. This is something that we're working on in real time. It's a work in progress, and there's a number of brands on the go. We have certain brands, we have agencies that are interested. So please feel free to ask the question if you think there's a client that there's a link to doing both with. But I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to just throw this in at the end, which is to lightly talk about programmatic. As we've been in market with our direct offering quite a lot, we haven't really put too much into the programmatic side, but I'll send this around, and this has all of the information about how we're really going to start talking about that a lot more. So just expect that. And if there are any questions, please feel free.
And so often there aren't many questions at the end of these things. So if there are, guys, just call out now, or we can connect you afterwards. All right. Thank you, Weatherzone. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mark. Just a reminder to members to make sure that remember to tune into tomorrow's deals presentation. 12 o'clock tomorrow. That's going to cover off all the new 12 different deals. I think we're going to have 30-something deals in market. So so watch out for that. Brisbane event coming up soon. We want 100% of all IMAA members in Brisbane to turn up for that one. We're going to be running that ourselves, so we want to make sure everyone's there. It's going to be a wonderful night. Cinema 101 is launching tomorrow, so those who are part of the Academy, watch out for that. And put them, and guys as well, if you are part of the Academy, make sure that you publish your badge on LinkedIn as well. And then finally, a trip to NT. So just make sure that if there's an appetite for that, please tune in. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Weatherzone. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, members. Have a great day. I hope everyone warms up. Talk soon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus.